Hello, Jenny.
Hey Jess, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good, super good. You stopped calling me Jenny Willie. Are we still married?
Yeah, just figured I'd change it up this time.
It's funny because the way this works is I come in on my iPhone and then you change it to my name, and so it says your name has changed to Jenny Willie. I'm like, yes, I know. Except for where I live, it's not actually legal to change my last name. So all my documents still have my old name.
That's just
It is what
absolutely
it is.
ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the divorce rate is so high that they probably save a lot of time and money just not letting people do it in the first place.
So, what do you want to talk about today?
Not names. I mean, that would be a good segue if we're talking about names. I wanted to tell you that I'm spiritual, not religious.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Me too. I heard that a lot, and now I feel like I actually legitimately mean it again. But
Yeah.
like kind of from okay, I'm going to see if I can actually get out the words I want to say. So thank you for being on your toes and willing to go into these things not fully sure what's going to come out of them because I have no idea. So I noticed when I was in the New Age that it was just the thing that we said because it was very bad to be religious. If you're
Yeah.
religious, it means that you subscribe to one way of thinking, and it's dogmatic, and this is what it is, and it's named this, and there's no room for interpretation. But then of course you have denominations and stuff. So for me back then, being religious was a bad thing, because in the New Age, which is essentially just a mishmash of all kinds of cultures, and you take from the Native Americans, and you take from um, well, you just take from whoever you want to take from, really, and you just mishmash it into a whatever you want it to be. That's what I think is the best way I would, when my friend said to me, you're New Age with tarot cards, crystals, yoga. Like, yoga has nothing to do with these things. We just take everything and we mishmash them together. So then you would just say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And then I became a born again Christian, and I identified as a Christian. I identified as a Baptist Christian, although not really, because I didn't exactly know what it meant to be a Baptist, but I was a Christian and this was my religion. And
Hmm.
even in that, like, you do hear the non denominational Christians often say it's about uh, relationship, not religion. So at the
Yeah.
beginning of my Christian walk, I was able to take that on, and it made a lot of sense to me that this was about our relationship with Christ. And then at some point, I think I started talking with an Anglican who I no longer talk to anymore because, anyway, you were there for that whole all the shenanigans with the Anglican couple.
Yeah.
Um, but he had helped me. He was like, well, no, it's a relationship and a religion. Like, if you're a Christian, you're in relationship with Christ, but it's a religion. And that made sense to me. Anyway, so now I've kind of crossed into this other space of no longer identifying really with any religion. This is my spiritual path. I actually reject religion for the most part. Yeah, I reject man-made tradition and religion.
Well,
Um,
that's what a religion is, right? It's Christ
I
didn't
don't
come
know.
teaching religion.
Okay, so I don't fully, I guess that's why I wanted to talk about it, to have your perspective, because sometimes you say, well, or obviously not, but it's not. This stuff is very vague and like kind of gray and muddy for me right now. So if it's muddy for me, it's muddy for other people.
Yeah.
So even like when people we said we were going to make a show called "Are All Y'all Christian?" We still have to do that. That's not this show, but it kind of is, because I guess I'm just trying to troubleshoot with you, understanding the differences between spirituality and religion,
Mhm.
and why it's okay to be spiritual and follow Christ without clinging to a denomination. And of course, you just did a really great interview with Ryan Dale the other day, and he was talking about having left denominationalism,
Hmm.
which I didn't know that was actually a word. But I don't know if I said enough to kind of kickstart kickstart this conversation, but basically the idea of I'm spiritual, not religious, I kind of went full circle with it.
Yeah.
I'm not in the same place at all because that's the other thing is that I think people around me see me as more religious than they are because it
Mm,
looks like I have more rules than they have. Okay, so that's a
yeah.
real subtle thing that I want to talk about because whose rules are they? Whose
Yeah.
rules are who following? So,
Yeah. I mean, the people from your past life and my past life to some lesser extent who used to say, I'm spiritual, not religious, that's exactly what they were trying to get away from is the rules, right? The terrible, burdensome rules of religion that they felt like they were rebelling against by being in the new age. And most people, I'm sure you never realized that you were still following a religion. It was just a different one. And so on the flip side of that, you have religious people, in this case Christians, mainstream Christians, who want to say that they're in a relationship, not a religion. But the when Christ came and was arguing with the Pharisees, he wasn't arguing with them because they were in a real relationship with the Father. He was arguing with them because they imposed their own religion over top of the relationship that God wanted them to have with him. He didn't beef with them because they rested on the seventh day or because they didn't eat certain things or because of any other reason. He beefed with them because they, at best, they were doing those things, but they had their own man-made doctrines that they placed either at the same level or over top of all of those things. And I think that a lot of mainstream Christianity today does the same thing. They they have all of these rules and traditions and decrees of the elders that they're following. And like, how many times have we come across somebody on Facebook who says, "What the church fathers said," and they're talking about some guy from like the 1200s, 1,000 years after Christ died, who said, something about the Trinity or something about X, Y, or Z doctrine. Like those are the people that are being referred to. They're not talking about John and Peter and Paul and necessarily because those people were teaching a totally different perspective. Like Christ told the Samaritan woman at the well that the time is coming and now is when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. So there's definitely something to be said for like the pendulum swing going all the way back the other way. And now we've gone from, well, I'm spiritual, not religious, to religious back to now we're back to spiritual again to some extent. And like the Bible talks a few times about the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. And the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. So it's not again that when people say it's about a relationship, not a religion, the sentiment behind that statement is correct in my view. Like the Father wants us to have a relationship with Him through His Son as like a loving father towards his children. So he doesn't care per se about strict adherence to rules and commandments. He wants us to love him and to love each other and to obey him. And
yeah, but how do we do those things without strictly adhering to the commandments?
I guess that is the kicker. Um, it says in, I think it was First Samuel, that obedience is better than sacrifice. And the only verse in the New Testament in the Gospels that Christ quoted two times was from Deuteronomy. And he said, I desire mercy and not sacrifice. And both times he quoted it, he implored the people listening to him to understand what that means. So I guess my take on it personally is like exactly the kind of thing that we talked about in the previous video about the name that we did, where people walk around beating everybody over the head with not necessarily made up doctrines, but things that are of secondary or tertiary importance in the
But
grand
it's
scheme of
it's
things.
what you're saying is making me think of it's the head, not the heart. Like it's head knowledge versus
Hmm.
coming from the heart.
That's exactly it. Like people, I think because there's a lot of smart people, there's a lot of like truthers, conspiracy people in the Torah community. Like a lot of people came to the Torah through those trains of thought. So I think a lot of people in those truther communities, and I used to feel, I know this because I used to be one of these people where proving to other people that you were smart was more important than actually convincing them of the truth. So it was almost like a hipster kind of thing. Like you believe this other niche kind of thing over here because it's like cooler than the mainstream narrative. And it's like I never really thought that to myself. Like I never had the conscious thought of like, oh, look how super smart I am. I believe like I really did believe the things that I was telling other people about, but it wasn't like I didn't I wasn't trying to convince people that I was because I cared whether they knew the truth or not, I guess. Like it was kind of like an unconscious thing where I just wanted to look smart and I wanted everybody to know that I knew a lot of things. And like I would argue with people on Facebook for 200 comments over the course of 3 days. And like,
Are you talking about this stuff or are you talking about politics or both?
well, it in my case it was politics, but there's still people that do that with Torah stuff. And I'm
It's
just
hard.
saying
I
that
mean, it's
like
hard not to. We've
it is.
gotten cut, but yeah, I've definitely let go. I mean, it's something I prayed about, and I've been telling you personally as my husband, and maybe in other videos I've said some stuff, but I feel like I'm getting help with stuff that I'm not even asking for help with. Like I'm being kind of like delivered of these behaviors. Like I guess that's the sanctification thing, but
Yeah.
I do not want to debate. Like I think I said to you on the phone last night, like, oh yeah, somebody said, well, if you're posting this, it's because you're engaging in a conversation. I'm thinking like, no, like I'm not posting this in order to have any kind of back and forth heated debate. I'm posting this. I like to preach to the choir. If somebody comes and can like learn something and is like receptive and open and asks me questions about what I know, those are the people I want to talk to. I don't
Yeah.
any longer want to debate about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So we have somebody coming to take something. There you go.
Yeah.
um Sorry that I lost my so just saying I hate debating so much. I've done it so much, and that whole like, oh well, do you keep the all the 613, like I actually said to somebody last night who asked me, he's a pastor. I'm not sure if it was a good faith conversation. I had posted a picture of a pig with an apple in its mouth. It was a little nasty of me maybe, but I was driving home last night and I just had this thought of how much disobedience there is surrounding food, and like the first thing was the apple. This wasn't an original thought, other people have this thought, but the first thing was the apple. And like now a lot of the conversations and like a lot of the stress about Torah is the pig thing because people love eating pig. And then I just like what makes our if we keep eating pork, it's disobedience, just like eating the apple. What there's like some
Yeah.
fixation around food there. Anyway, I put that post up about like how are we any different than Adam and Eve if we just continue um to eat the stuff that he said not to eat. It's literally the exact same thing.
Mhm.
I derailed myself. What was I trying to say? My oh yeah, my point was somebody then started asking about, well, how do you choose a pastor? I don't know him in person, but how do you choose which laws you're going to follow? And like I literally just said, I don't have the energy for this conversation. I tagged you in it, and I'm like, if this is a good faith conversation, you can talk to my husband about it. I am done answering those questions.
Yeah.
But I used to love it, and it is like you do get a rush, and now I don't. My nervous system no longer has any space for debate.
Yeah.
I don't want to have conversations. I'll help people learn what I've learned because now I'm so solid and so convinced of the things that are being revealed to me. I know what I know. I'll share it, but you're not going to it's not that I can't have my mind changed about certain things, but certain things my mind will not change about. And that's
Yeah.
okay. We don't have to remain open-minded
No.
on all fronts. We can know what the truth is and then remain flexible, like that video we made about the name. we're
Mhm.
we're pretty sure what it is, but there's no like hard we know there's some things that we can't really 1,000% know, so let's not pretend we
Yeah.
can. But the things we can know, because it's literally front to back of the entire book, I'm not gonna debate about those things. I'll help you
Yeah.
understand it the best that I can, but I'm not debating. So
And
anyway, sorry for that rant.
that's okay. That brings up an interesting thought, I guess. Like in my mind, that's where religion comes from is debates over secondary and tertiary concerns.
Wow.
So this whole
That's where the
spirit of
denominations come
religion,
from. That's where
yeah,
the denominations, and that's where the schisms and the splits. Like if you had
yep,
one truth and then people started to add stuff around, it's so the
yep,
leaven. I just made bread. I made gluten-free bread for the first time, and now I'm starting to understand how yeast works, and I'm watching all this
yeah,
stuff in front of my eyes, and it's like the best metaphor of watching things blow out of proportion and watching
yeah,
things get added.
absolutely, it is. Yeah, God knew what he was doing when he had them take the leaven out of their bread as like a as a symbol. Um, but yeah, I mean that's 100% where the spirit of religiosity comes from is people thinking that they know better than somebody else. And I can't remember where in the Bible it is, but somewhere in the Bible it says that no prophecy is of any private interpretation. So I take that to mean that everything in the Bible has one interpretation, not many. We have 40,000 or however many the real number is denominations because every person thinks that their own interpretation of whatever thing is the correct one. And a lot of those people are completely unwilling to have a conversation about it.
Okay, but
They just think,
how's that different with us? I guess that's kind of what I was saying about knowing that there's some things that I'm not gonna budge on. And I've definitely been accused of the things that you're saying now, but somehow I'm like, well,
right,
no, like this is the way, the truth. I guess it's it because this is the way, the truth, and the life. This is what it is. It's
yeah.
not the additions to
Well,
all this stuff. It's the Torah. That's the truth.
the Bible is relatively easy to understand until, like, assuming that you read the entire Bible together and assuming you don't try to cut parts out of it and assuming you don't try to eisegete your own understanding into the text. Like that's what a lot of people do. They don't read the words for what they say. They think that whether they think it's like a metaphor or that God's not being serious when he says I don't change, whatever reason they have to come up with. And all of that is to say like the overarching point is that the farther you get away from reading the whole Bible as one cohesive book from beginning to end, the farther you get away from spirit and truth, and the closer you get to the letter of the law and this spirit of super religiosity that everybody seems to be being guided by these days.
Do
And
you
like,
know, sorry,
oh, go ahead. I was pretty much done.
do you know, could you find it maybe like the actual definition of religion? Like, does it mean that it was man-made? Like, because in my mind, literally all religions are man-made. Like, there's one truth, and then everything else is invented. And that one
Yeah.
truth comes from the God of Abraham.
Yes. So the Oxford definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods. The second definition is a particular system of faith and worship. And the third is a pursuit or interest to which someone ascribes supreme importance. And even in the first definition, it's it says a belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers. So already we've interjected mankind into the definition of this word. It's not, and it says especially a god or gods. Well, mankind invented the gods. Like there's no the gods. There's the one true God and then all of the other false gods. And mankind invented all of those gods, whether they come from fallen angels or giants or whatever, they were never.
Okay, but then the same people then people will turn around and think that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is also invented. But I guess,
Yeah,
then we can say, well, no, we have the Holy Bible to prove that's not true. And they can say, oh, well, we have the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita. And we're like, okay, but ours is inspired by the Holy Spirit. And they're like, how do you know that? You know what I mean? And then it becomes like,
yeah,
for me, when I discovered the truth was shortly when I had proof for Christ having, like, I didn't even know he was a historical figure. I was just laughing with the kids last night driving because somebody said that the date is something da 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 BC or AD or whatever, and like I was just laughing. I was like, it's not that long ago that I didn't even realize that Christ was an actual historical figure, and like literally the whole world measures their time based on when
yeah,
he was here. Um,
yeah. I guess that like even the mainstream definition of religion, it's and it tries to inject human understanding into that, right? And you're right about everybody can argue about which God is the real God, which holy book is the real holy book, but we don't have to convince any of those people. That's not even our job. Like the it's the job of the Holy Spirit to convict and draw people in. It's not, and like there's just some people that won't ever get it.
Oh, I
Like we
think
don't.
that I derailed myself, but I will go back. I was going to say that um, I watched that movie, The Case for Christ, and there was enough evidence presented by that journalist, Lee Strobel, who it was based off a book about his life. But so I know that we have archaeological, historical evidence, and that's what backs up, and that's what we can use if we want to tell people why our book is the book,
Yeah.
because like the Book of Mormon doesn't have that stuff, guys. You know what I mean? Or whatever book. It's like you
Yeah.
they don't have the proof of the legitimacy of their gods.
Yeah. Yeah. And the New Testament has like 20,000 extant manuscripts, and the Odyssey by Homer has two or something like that.
Right.
I don't think
Right.
those are exact numbers, but nobody questions whether Homer wrote the Odyssey or when
Mm-hmm.
he wrote the Odyssey, and we only have two
Yeah,
manuscripts
but we're
from it.
not talking about anything supernatural there. It's just the Odyssey. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this is high contention stuff because we're asserting, just like Christ asserted he was the Son of God and it had him crucified. You know what I mean? Like we're saying, no, no, really, like it's this guy over here, whereas who cares about Homer? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that was just an example, but the I'm sure you've heard before somebody say like uh Jesus was either a crazy person or the Son of God. And if he was a crazy person, then why would 12 disciples and who knows how many other people martyr themselves
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
for him? Why wouldn't
Yeah,
they all
again and
just
again and again, though, right? This through the whole
yeah,
history of sticking to it, and yeah.
yeah, and I mean there's been martyrs all throughout history from every religion, but when you go back to the source of the people who personally knew Christ when he was alive,
Mm-hmm.
all of them were willing to die for the things that they saw with their own eyes. No other religion has that. And I mean, that's a really important point to me. Like there was no even if there was historical information supporting the existence of some of these other gods, then even if there was, there certainly wouldn't be any cases or historical accounts of people following those gods who
It's funny though, you just said no other religion has that, and the religion you're presumably talking about
yeah
is Christianity. And in my mind, we're not even necessarily talking about Christianity because we're naming Christianity as a
yeah
man-made religion.
yeah but I mean that's how pervasive it is, right? Like you don't even you don't even realize sometimes that you're saying that. But I mean I don't want to be a religious person. And I think even within the Torah community there's a lot of religious people where they're more
Okay, so
concerned
what
about
does that mean then? Can you break that down? Because so if we're talking about Torah now, like again, when I've tried to explain to people outside of this whole thing who are still in New Age or asking me like, why don't you go to church anymore? This, that.
Mhm.
And I try, it's like again, I physically look, I'm sitting here in my living room and I don't have my head covering on. But when I go outside, I always cover my head, I cover my body, I wear tassels that are very visible. I look religious
Mhm.
compared to, somebody who might go to church whose cleavage is hanging out and all this kind of sorry, all this kind of stuff. Like um I seem I have rules. Like somebody said the other
Yeah.
day, she's very sweet. I don't think she's watched a single one of our videos because it's not her thing. She's definitely not religious, atheist, even probably, maybe agnostic. And she was genuinely trying to help me find some crunchy thing that I could eat in the morning for breakfast that wasn't pork bacon. So she suggested chicken skin,
Oh,
but she
really?
said that could be good, right?
Mhm.
Frying up some chicken skin. I was like, yeah, that'll get me the good crunch. But she said, "Are you allowed to eat chicken skin?" I was like, "Oh, like I
Mhm.
hate that she framed it that way." But she's not
Yeah.
really like, "Am I allowed?" I already get my prickly back up because I'm kind of anti-authoritarian unless it
Mhm.
comes from the big guy. So, But I laughed. I was like, yes, God gave me permission to eat chicken, you know? So again, just to say that I look, because then again, all the other Christians around me eat literally whatever they want to eat. So I look more religious. But in my mind, I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. So,
Yeah.
like again, it's like it's such a what does it mean to be religious? What does it mean to be spiritual? I'm not spiritual now in the way that I was before when I was doing my new age stuff.
No.
Total different thing.
Yeah, and I
I have
mean,
more rules now. I have way more rules. Do I have
yeah.
613? No.
It I guess it's where the rules come from too, is the rules in the Torah came directly from God. He wrote them on stone tablets with his own finger. So, like, we follow those rules because we know that they come from a loving creator who wants what's best for us. They're not coming from some guy, some monk sitting in a dark candlelit dungeon 1800 years ago. You know, they came directly, I mean, from what we believe, they came directly down from heaven to us. So, and like Christ said, my commandments are not burdensome, and I think that's in the Old Testament too. My commandments aren't burdensome, and they're not. Like who cares if you don't get to eat pork? Pork is never was never good for you anyways. It's loaded with parasites. It's too salty. It's too fatty. It was never good for you anyways. So who cares if you don't get to eat it anymore? And like shellfish is the same way. They're like sea floor cockroaches. They eat garbage and then they filter it out through their exoskeletons and like they're disgusting scavengers. They eat fish poop. That's literally what they eat. So like these things are and like wearing tassels to remind yourself of the commandments isn't a burden. Resting on the Sabbath day isn't a burden. And like you should want to cover your body from the eyes of other people. Like nobody who has pure intentions wants to see that
I was
from
I was
men
in the
or women.
city, dog. I was in the city yesterday. I held back because I had already made a bunch of people mad on Facebook with some of the things I had posted earlier that day. So I didn't say anything. I'll say it to you and maybe never talk about it again. I'm in the city. I don't want to see anybody's butt cheeks in a skirt.
Yeah.
Nobody, male, female. I never even thought it was possible to see male butt cheeks in a skirt until I was in the city yesterday. When when there was a man not even trying to look like a woman wearing a skirt, um, whose bum cheeks I could see in the skirt. Anyway,
That's horrifying.
side note, I
Uh,
think that modesty is for men and women,
yeah,
but skirts are for women.
absolutely. Yeah, and like he even says in the Bible, don't men don't wear women's clothes, women don't wear men's clothes. And I think that even back in those days, like the clothing was much more similar. Like there people wore robes and like tunics and stuff. Women what I mean is that the difference in clothing style between women and men was probably much less diverse than it is today. Nowadays, typically men wear pants or shorts and women wear dresses or skirts. And like women's clothing these days is designed from the ground up to show off as much skin as possible. That just is how it is. And like society's taught men that they're not attractive unless they're completely roided out, huge, and like wearing a schmedium shirt and like skin tight shorts that only go down to the middle of their thigh. And like it used to be where what I mean is not that long ago, it was only women's clothing that was revealing. And now,
Mm.
like the style of men's clothing that's in. The shorts keep getting shorter and shorter. The
Mm.
shirts keep getting tighter and tighter. And it just seems like even for men nowadays, the clothing is getting more revealing.
But it makes sense because I think we're just seeing
Yeah.
everything as we've talked about many times between the two of us, just that merge, like just literally the merging between the masculine and the feminine, the
Yeah.
merging between the robot and the human, the merging
Yeah.
between all of these things. So it makes sense that the what
Yeah.
you're saying with the clothing. I don't like seeing men with their shirts off. It's not fun for me. I think that I know for a fact that biblical modesty is for everybody.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I didn't stop the guy in the short skirt. I really just kept walking because it actually felt sick. Like it was not.
Yeah.
It was. I just didn't feel good. But that's summer
Most.
in the city, right? The warmer it gets out, the more people take their clothes off. And
Yeah. And I mean, nobody
but there
wants
we
to
are
be.
being. That's us being religious, right? I remember
Yeah.
when I started covering my head, which was until not that long ago. It is something that Baptists were doing.
Hmm.
Um, as I
Everybody was
said,
doing it.
as I said when we spoke to Matthew the other day, one of the influences I had when I started looking into head covering with was my friend Andrew, who was from the Mennonite Brethren.
Hmm.
Um, I started covering my head out of conviction just on Sundays, and then shortly after, well before I knew you, I was covering it all the time.
Hmm.
And they were doing we were going through the book of First Corinthians, and I knew First Corinthians 11 was coming up, and I got super anxious about it because I know the mainstream idea of anyway. I
Hmm.
just remember saying to the pastor, please don't make me look like an idiot. Like, I'm not covering my head because I don't know how to read the Bible and I misinterpreted this. Please don't go and say that it was for the anyway. Regardless, the conversations I had had with that pastor who's no longer there, was that it gave off the impression of legalism, like that I was possibly offending people with my legalistic look by covering my head, and this predated all the other legalist things I then went on to do, right? Which
Hmm.
which none of them were actually coming from a place of
Right.
legalism because I never told, and I will still never say that a woman should cover their head if they're not personally convicted, them and their husband.
Hmm.
Anyway, sorry, that's way off track. We're talking about modesty, but just the
That's okay.
appearance the appearance of being religious when
Yeah.
it's not it's not a doctrine. I'm not in the Mennonite brethren. I don't have anybody, not even a husband, telling me that I should be covering my head. That is a one-on-one conviction between
Hmm.
me and the Father, and it was supernaturally beyond me. I cannot not cover my head when I leave. You've seen, I've tried it. I've tried I've on a few occasions, and I literally come back in the head and come back in the house and I put a hat on or something. I just don't feel good. I can't do it anymore. There's something about the being outside of my house. I'm on camera, people will see me, so I haven't fully figured it out. The point is, it's between me and the Father. It's not because somebody told me I need to be covering my head.
Right.
It's not a religious thing for me. It's a
Yeah.
spiritual thing. It is though. It's
Yeah.
100% what I'm saying.
Yeah. And that's actually a great, I'm not sure what the word is. You talking about uh, the reason that you cover your head is the perfect metaphor, I guess, for the spiritual versus religious discussion, because the people who called you legalist for wanting to cover your head, they were coming at it from the perspective of, well, that's a religious attitude, what she's doing, because legalism means religious to those people. Too many rules. We don't like those rules. We're free in Christ, that kind of thing. But they don't realize that a lot of the things, most of the things that they're calling legalist are the things that God said to do, and they're the ones with the religious spirit that are rebelling against that.
Oh,
And
it's so that's why I wanted to have this conversation, and
yeah,
it's still a bit muddy because it's so
it is.
it's
It's super
twisted.
subtle
Yeah,
and
and it's
twisted.
twisted and turned around. But I think what we're saying is the religion comes from man, and the spirit, the letter of the law comes from man, and the spirit of the law comes from God.
Yes.
That's it. Amen. That's the
Yes.
conclusion. Yay! Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you. I
you're
hope
welcome.
I hope that I don't have anything else I want to say. I just had
No, I know.
my massive opinion epiphany again. This is great, Jess. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I mean, I'm sure
All
we could
right.
have had a long conversation like that in private, but I hope it blesses or at least entertains somebody somewhere.
Yeah, me too. All right, I guess we'll end the video there. Bye everybody. Thank you for watching.